Right now, we'll check in with our good buddy Chris Easterling, covers the Browns for the Akron Beacon Journal. You can check him out all over all of the social media platforms. Chris, good afternoon. How's the city of brotherly love treating you?
It is absolutely scorching out here.
I know. What is it like, 88, but the humidity is just like off the charts?
It's in the 90s, and the heat index has it in the hundreds.
Oh, my gosh. A lot different than Charlotte, huh?
Yeah, I would have taken the sunshine we've had here, the temperatures we had there, and this guy would be perfectly happy.
Yeah, I know it's a steamer up there. I think it's going to be that way the rest of the weekend. Oh, by the way, good thing they're playing at 1 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. That'll be nice. So
yeah, because I got a 7:20 flight home.
Get in, get out, and get on your way back home. Okay, Chris, number 12, got a little problem here. Got an injured oblique. I guess it happened during throwing today, a throwing session. What can you tell us about the severity of that? And as far as oblique injuries are concerned, how long is something like this could it sideline a guy like Shedeur?
All we've got, we almost literally just got a update from them maybe 15, 20 minutes ago.
Okay.
And basically what it said was day-to-day, medical testing, he's day-to-day. He's not going to practice tomorrow and unlikely to play against the Eagles backups on Saturday afternoon. So what you got there is all you're going to get from them. This is a thing. All I can speculate is, and this is speculation based on how they have treated Kenny Pickett's hamstring, which happened on the 26th, how they treated Dylan Gabriel's hamstring, which the injury probably occurred on the 2nd, but we didn't find out about it till the 4th. My guess is that this might be the last you see of Shedeur this preseason. I mean, let's be honest. When you're talking about an oblique, I mean, you were a pitcher.
Yeah.
I mean, it's somewhat similar. It's that torque.
Yep.
And so you want to be extra careful with that, especially with a young kid that, look, the whole plan, and I know it's nothing about the conversation surrounding Shedeur, even before the draft, is, I think, started from good faith places, because everybody's narrative has filtered into the conversation and where they started from. They have tried to have a plan to develop this kid. They really like his talent. Obviously not enough to take him before they took Dylan Gabriel, but they did take him. And now that he's an asset for them, they want to make sure they maximize it. And what they saw in a quarterback when they drafted him was a quarterback that's got a lot of the tools, but just needs to be developed and refined into an NFL-ready quarterback. And for as well as he did on Saturday, it was against backups and third stringers. None of Carolina's best defensive players played. There was no Derek Brown, no J.C. Horn, no A'Shawn Robinson. Wanham maybe played like one series. I mean, but that's not to diminish what he did, because I thought he played really well. But they want to bring this kid along, and bringing him along is not rushing him back from an oblique injury. So that's why, if I had to speculate, and look, we're a week and a half away, I don't think you see him against the Rams, which is a disappointment. But at the same time, you gotta look big picture, and I don't think people have necessarily always been looking big picture when they discuss this kid.
Chris, do you think that the organization, whoever's making the decision, would they be tempted? I mean, if he checks out and he's feeling better, and would they be tempted to run him out there for a couple series against the Rams? It's the only home preseason game. Obviously, we're pretty well set to know that Joe Flacco is going to be the number one guy going into the Bengals game. Would that come up at all, or you're talking about they're almost going to like put Shedeur in bubble wrap here for maybe the next 7 to 10 days?
Well, I mean, I can only go. This is my 4th year covering Kevin Stefanski, and the day he actually rushes somebody back from when he always seems to, if it says 6 to 10 days, it almost always feels like 10 to 14.
Yep, you're right.
I mean, he's just going to be cautious, especially at this time of the year, regardless of the player, because you don't necessarily, you're not winning the division on August 23rd. So, and they don't need, look, let's be real. Like you said, Joe Flacco is the starter. Joe Flacco is the guy you need ready for September 7th. You just need Shedeur Sanders to continue to progress. I realize it's tougher to do that when you're recovering from an injury, and then you're going to go into regular season mode, which is when a quarterback in Shedeur's position isn't going to necessarily get a whole lot of reps. So, I mean, that's the unfortunate reality of this situation. That said, I mean, if you're mad about them doing that, then just say, look, I don't really actually care about the kid himself. I'm just all about the whatever. I mean, just the football side of it, or I don't know, because again, it's short term versus long term, and long term, he needs to make sure that oblique is perfectly healthy before he gets back out there throwing.
Chris Easterling is our guest. He is the outstanding beat reporter for the Cleveland Browns from the Akron Beacon Journal. Check him out. Does a great job. So what happened today outside of the Shedeur news? Joint practice number 1 with Philly and the Browns. Who got a lot of reps? Who got a lot of work? Who maybe kind of caught your eye a little bit today?
You know what? I thought part of what I was seeing in training camp with the struggles the Browns offense was having against the number 1 defense was because that defense has a chance to be good, and today reinforced it. Myles Garrett was living around Jalen Hurts, just living in the backfield near him. Alex Wright made plays. Isaiah McGuire made plays. Mason Graham made plays. Carson Schwarzenegger made plays. There's a chance, and it's still early. But what I saw today showed me a defense that I think can get back to a little bit of what they were in 23. Maybe not top, number 1, maybe not top 5, but top 10. If that defensive line play like that, and if 95 plays like he looked today, woo, that's all that's where it starts. And then on the back end, you got Denzel Ward, who can take away. We've seen what he can do against Jamar Chase. We've seen what he can do against good wide receivers. That's a nice little recipe for a defense that can help you while your offense tries to find its footing, because the flip side of that is, hey, Philly's got a pretty good defense also, and they lived in the backfield. Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and Ojulari and those guys lived in the backfield around Joe Flacco today. So, as well as a bunch of drop passes. So it was a day for the defenses, which is why having 2 days of these joint practices is so good, because we can see what adjustments are made, who comes to play tomorrow, and I expect a little bit of a feisty practice tomorrow, to be quite honest. Typically, the way it goes, one team gets its feelings hurt a little bit,
sure,
and they come back with a little bit. We saw it 2 years ago when these two teams came back. The Browns sort of took it to the Eagles 2 years ago.
I remember that.
The Eagles came back, and it got a little feisty, a little bit of a how do you do between the Browns offense and the Eagles defense after one play. But hey, boys will be boys, and this is football, so you you'll have that occasionally, but I was really impressed. Circling this the oil tanker back in the port. I was really impressed with that defensive line, how that defensive line showed out today.
Chris, you mentioned 95 was getting after it today a little bit. I'm wondering, did anybody get after 95 about his latest slip up with the law on the road? Did Kevin Stefanski address that with the media at all today and have said what was said to Myles Garrett?
I asked him directly about, Myles, was the first time we had talked to him since learning about the citation. He goes, look, extremely disappointing. And, then gave a Kevin type answer that said, yeah, we're handling it. And then Mary Kay Cabot, the Hall of Famer, followed up with, so were there disciplinary actions taken and all he said was, yeah, we'll keep that internal. So my guess is there's some sort of disciplinary, he got disciplined in some way. It's just nothing that you may necessarily see. Although if he doesn't play the first series against Cincinnati, maybe take that as a guess. I don't know. But, it's fitting there in Philly. And I thought, maybe you need to sit him down and tell him the story of Jerome Brown.
Great
you
point.
Talk about a player.
Yeah.
You want to talk about a football player who was, I don't know if he would have made it to Canton, but he was a hell of a football player. And he was tragically, his life was cut short and the life of, I believe his uncle or cousin was cut short because of speeding. And Myles had this incident 3 years ago where he flipped his car and almost killed himself and a passenger. If that doesn't wake you up, I don't know. I don't know what else can.
Yeah. Apparently it hasn't woken him up enough. And I hope that it's like, come on, man, 7, 8, 9 times. You gotta pull back a little bit. Hopefully message sent this time around and there'll be no further problems with Myles Garrett on the road, but you never know. Chris Easterling is our guest, Browns beat reporter for the Akron Beacon Journal, hanging out with us here on the Sam Bourquin Show today, 1310 WDPN. So what can we look for out of Mr. Dillon Gabriel tomorrow and maybe on Saturday afternoon?
Your guess is as good as mine, Sammy. I think what I look for from him is the same thing I'm looking for from this whole Browns offense is how do you recover from what is clearly objectively a bad day? There is no, even Joe said when we spoke to Joe and Dillon both, and it was like, look, we have to sort of throw that away and move on. We got to move past it. And look, it was a bad day, so they need to bounce back. And Dillon has to show, I think the pressure's on Dillon because what Shedeur did last week, rightly or wrongly, even though I don't think either of them are in line to start, barring a disaster. Shedeur went out there and looked like a guy who at least could develop into a very good NFL starter. That's the bar Dillon has to reach. He's got to go out there, and if nothing else, I'm not saying statistically necessarily, but he at least has to look the part out there of, making decisive throws, staying playing in the pocket, doing everything that I think the Browns feel like he can be because they believe he's an NFL quarterback, and this is going to be his opportunity to prove it against, it's obviously he's not going to face the Eagles' number one defense on Saturday, but he's going to get more reps tomorrow against the Eagles' number one defense.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a feisty bunch, and you're gonna know. He'll know by the time he leaves Philly what he needs to improve on in order to. I think the battle is really to become the backup to Joe. Can you do enough to develop the trust that they don't need to keep 4 quarterbacks? Because that's where they are, I think, right now is can they trust either of these rookies to be quarterback 2? right from the start, or do they need to, once Kenny gets healthy, do they need to keep Kenny around, if nothing else, to make sure they're not thrust into the position they were 2 years ago with DTR, who, by the way, got a chance to see DTR because you remember they flipped him to Philly for Kenny.
Right.
What a tremendous kid. I whatever you think of him as an NFL quarterback, what a nice kid. He made a point to come over and say hi to the media contingent
Good.
from Cleveland, and the smile on his face, and he was joking around, and he seems like he's in a good spot. I mean, who wouldn't be there? You're in Philly with the Eagles, who are Super Bowl champions. But at the same time, he was always a great kid to deal with, even if the on the field product necessarily wasn't always the best.
Good for him. Chris Easterling, Akron Beacon Journal. I got one more before we let you go, and I got to ask you about Nick Sirianni, of course, off the Mount Union tree and doing a great job defending Super Bowl champs. I don't know what the rules are for media up in Philly, Chris, how many fields, where you're allowed to go, how close, what you're allowed to watch, what you're not. But do you get a sense, did you ever get close enough to Sirianni to watch how he does the practice, how he interacts with the players, his rhythm, the way that he does things? Do you ever get anything from that at all?
I really couldn't, because where we're at the end. They're on two separate fields.
Okay.
Like Browns offense, Eagles defense is on one field. Browns defense, Eagles offense on another field, which is obviously where Nick's going to be at, and we're up. The fields run away from the end line is up abuts basically the back of their facility, and then runs outward from there. So I've seen Nick up close a couple of times during 22 and 23 when they were in Cleveland for joint practices, and obviously when they were back in Philly that time for it. But they clearly like him. I mean, they clearly have developed a respect for him, and clearly I think there's something that they found something last season. I think, if nothing else, because it was funny, we were talking, because the last time we were here was last year, week 6, and the fans were chanting to fire Nick. He was threatening to get in the fans, he'd jump in the stands and fight some fans.
Yeah.
And the Browns have somehow almost beat them. A 3-win Browns team, Eagles team went on to win the Super Bowl. So they've come a long way, and I think it was a mutual growing process where, even if it's not that personal, whatever that means in pro sports, I think there's a mutual respect between coach and player and coach.
Yeah,
with him and the guys in that locker room.
No doubt. Yeah, it's worked out really well for them, and happy for Nick and the job he's done, and he just keeps doing his thing, and he does it his way. And that's the thing I like about it the most. Well, Chris, we appreciate you coming on here today. We'll let you go. Hope you can survive the heat and the humidity. Grab yourself a couple of cheesesteaks and have fun up the rest of the week in Pennsylvania, okay?
I will. Thanks a lot for having me on, Sammy.
Thank you, sir. Chris Easterling, Browns beat reporter for the Akron Beacon Journal.